Hello, welcome back to uh, my broadcast. Today I'm going to be broadcasting about Imprisoned, the Travails of a Trafficked Victim, a book that I wrote about my personal experience as a victim of domestic abuse and human trafficking. The reason I wrote this book is to help others to become free from either it's domestic abuse or human trafficking in the United States. There are so many people who are victims of human trafficking that don't even know that they are victims. And anybody, regardless of your status, regardless of your background, regardless of your education, can become a victim of human trafficking. And really, this is the first time that I will be doing this book reading. I wrote it first in 2009, and then in 2012, I revised the book. However, I have never done any kind of public reading. I've gone to several book signing events, and I've signed several books, but this is going to be my first time reading this book. I don't know how long this is going to take. It's going to be a series of reading, and this is the first reading ever. So every day, God help me, I will read some part of this book, and I'm doing this with the hope that somebody who needs help out there will reach out for help, especially if you are anywhere in the United States, and especially also if you are an immigrant. So if you know somebody that their story might relate to what I'm going to be reading in this book, please do not hesitate to contact me. You can follow me on Periscope as Bukola Oriola, on Twitter as Bukola Oriola, and I'm also on Facebook as Bukola Oriola. You can send me messages. You can refer people to me for help. So, I don't even know where to start from. But there are 14 chapters actually in this book. And I have a personal message to the United States government. And there is also a page that analyzes what human trafficking is in my story, especially for those who are victims or might be victims of human trafficking, to be able to get help, because identifying victims of human trafficking can be really difficult to do. Identification is one of the main challenges that people encounter, or even service providers encounter, or even law enforcement encounter in order to give help to victims. And I tell you, it's not only immigrants that go through this process. I've had an American citizen read my book and said, what I read in your book is similar to what happened to me. I was being exploited at work, and I didn't know that it was exploitation then until I read your book. So I'm going to be reading this book for the first time ever in how many years now that I've written the book. So I'm just going to go right into it and start from maybe the preface. So the preface is like the introduction to the book. Like I said, I may read the whole preface, I may not read the whole preface, but I'll be reading this kind of like every day and any time of the day randomly. So, but it will always be the same title, I hope. So, human trafficking is when a person is here in the United States as a result of fraud, force, or coercion for the purpose of being subjected to involuntary servitude, forced labor, debt bondage, slavery, or commercial sex exploitation. Force includes physical abuse of the victim, while fraud may be luring someone through false offers of employment or marriage. Coercion, on the other hand, means threat to the victim or her family, death, bondage, and psychological abuse. This book, however, is destined to be an eye-opener about the reality of domestic abuse and human trafficking, most especially among immigrants now living in the United States. Even though there is domestic abuse in the African country, Nigeria, where I hailed from, it is not taken as a serious issue that should be addressed as it is in the United States. Family takes more preference in Nigeria about family issues than the law. So family members always intervene whenever something is amiss in a marriage. And please, I welcome you to ask me questions, and sometimes I may pause to give an explanation of what I mean by something that I've written. For example, talking about domestic abuse in Nigeria, the country where I came from, and family taking preference. For example, in a marriage, if there is domestic abuse, the family is always the one resolving it. And indeed, as I speak to you, a woman reached out to me from Nigeria for help and see me here in the United States. Helpless to help her. I wish she was here. It would have been easier to help her. I'm trying to get her help in Nigeria now. It's been several days contacting someone who's supposed to be an activist in Nigeria to find help for her. I haven't gotten any response back. If it were to be in the United States, if I had called one organization or one person, even if that person cannot give help, that person will be able to refer me to services for the victim. So unfortunately, that is one of the problems going on in Nigeria. So to continue, maltreatment from one spouse to the other among the immigrants here in the United States is therefore common, especially when there is no family member to intervene. The shocking aspect, however, is that spouse who joined the one who is already a resident or had been naturalized as an American citizen becomes a slave. That happens so many times where somebody is already in the United States and he or she brings the spouse over. Once the spouse gets here, he or she tells the spouse, you know, I brought you to the United States. You have to do whatever I tell you to do. And in the process, the new spouse becomes a slave. The shocking aspect. Oh, I think I just read that. In essence, the American citizen or resident was only looking for a victim that he would traffic into the United States, pretending to be a spouse. The victim is then turned into a slave for use as a material for his personal gain rather than a relationship of love. It is sad to know that this happens without anyone being suspicious. The victim or family members from their country of origin. I therefore hope to use this book to educate and reveal what happens among immigrants in the United States in terms of domestic abuse and human trafficking through my own personal experience. I am doing this to educate other women who are either presently living in such a situation or might find themselves in the same scenario. They need to know that life is not a bed of roses and that coming to America does not necessarily mean upgrading one's status. For me, I lost my status, career, self-esteem, and it was just a thin line that kept me wavering between life and death. I almost lost my life in the process. I suffered isolation for 2 years. I could not go wherever or whenever I wanted. I was at the mercy of my husband, who took me whenever it felt it was necessary, or on his own condition, and sometimes for sex. I suffered throughout my pregnancy period. I could not eat whatever I craved, and sometimes I was at home in pain with little or no help. He pretended to care for me when others were around. When I worked, it took most of my money, leaving me with virtually nothing to survive upon. It was a situation of a slave at the beck and call of her master. It could be described as the Israelites in the hands of Pharaoh and the Egyptians. Therefore, I implore all victims to be conscious of the fact that there is help out there. There are shelters for battered women. There is immigration help too, because abusive men and slave masters always use immigration as a weapon against their victims. So, although I'm using women here, I would like to add that there are men who go through similar experience. And the same help that is available to women is also available to men. So if you're in the United States, or you know someone in the United States that is a man that is going through what I'm reading in this book, please contact me, because there is help available. You will not be deported if the United States Citizen and Immigration Service found out that you have been abused or enslaved of a truth by a United States citizen or permanent resident. So please, I beg, do not waste away at a man's hands, or worse still, lose your life. Go for help. I almost lost my life in the process because I attempted suicide. So please, if you are in a similar situation or you know someone in this situation, encourage them to reach out for help. I also want to use this opportunity to encourage survivors to stop living like victims, because once you are free, you are free. Please go for mental health therapy. It helped me. I believe it will help a lot of women who have gone through hardship in the hands of men. You do not only need legal status, but also your total health. As this book opens the eyes of many to be aware of their surroundings and the slavery going on around the world in recent times, I urge those who need help to speak out. Readers should take note that this book is written in plain language and there are uses of words like the private part in it. Therefore, it contains adult content. Due to privacy issue, some names have been changed, but like I mentioned in the beginning of this message, it is a true life story, and I hope that many will take advantage of my experience to seek for help. So that is the preface, and I'm going to end there today. And I would like to add that indeed, if you need help, please reach out for help. You can follow me to continue with this reading, bukolaoriola.com, or follow me on Periscope. I'm Bukola Oriola. You can follow me on Twitter as Bukola Oriola, and you can follow me on Facebook as Bukola Oriola. I will continue to read this book, and like I said, this is my first time reading this book publicly. I've attended so many book signings. I didn't read my book, I just answered questions. But this time, I'm reading it to the whole world. So if you know someone that might benefit from this story, refer them to reach out for help. And please contact me. To continue with the story, next time I'm online, please follow me here on Periscope so that you can be notified when I begin a broadcast, and that broadcast might be reading this book. Thank you for this time, and God bless you. Bye-bye.